Hey, it's me, Vicky Marie. Hi, and tonight it is true crime with a glass of wine. It's been a long day, a lot of classes, muchas clases de Espanol, but I'm not complaining. It's great. Every day I thank God that I have work. So, first of all, thank you all for being here, but thank you for watching, liking, subscribing. Thank you to all of you, especially that are members. Anyone who has bought me a Ko-fi, sent me a super, supported my channel in any way, thank you so much. Gratitude is important. And really, your support just means everything. Any kind of support, whether it's just watching the videos, doing a thumbs up, even doing a thumbs down, anything that supports my channel is brilliant. Thank you so much, and giving me the opportunity to do this, which I really do love doing, even though it's not always fun, but for one reason or another, but most of the time it is. And thank you so much for the lovely emails, messages. Oof, I've been sort of overwhelmed again. Thank you so much for all. I appreciate the messages you send to suggest cases or to let me know what's happening or just to see if I'm okay. I mean, it's just so nice. It's so nice. I love this community that we've got, and it really does mean everything to me when things are difficult. And I don't mean difficult in YouTube land. I'm talking about real life. Things happen in real life sometimes where, as we all know, you get a bit down, and then I come on here and do a live with all you lovely people, and it's like, I can escape, if you like. So what we're going to talk about tonight, I was so happy to see that there finally is some sort of update in the Rachel Morin case, and it was quite strange because yesterday I was just talking about it in the context of the missing mum in Australia. And I want to thank, I've had quite a lot of nice messages about that from people in Australia, which is lovely because, we feel like we are a long way from Australia, or I certainly am. You're not if you live in Australia, but, the empathy that you can feel with a mum. A mum of 3 children just went out supposedly for a jog and didn't come back, the concern. And there's a lot still. I think there's so much going on there behind the scenes. And hopefully soon something will break that will either, hopefully find Samantha safe and well. But if not, at least some resolution for a family, which I just cannot imagine. Every day must be a torture, wondering what has happened to your loved one, mustn't it? So I'd mentioned about the Rachel Morin case last night, and then lo and behold, today turns up on Twitter an update from my favourite sheriff. Any of you who have watched the Rachel Morin case with me, you'll know I've got a little bit of a shine for this sheriff. We're going to look a little bit about him, and we're going to listen to a podcast that is made to mark the 6 months. It's now been 6 months, since Rachel died. And although they know who's done it because they have DNA, they haven't released the name. But I think maybe they know this guy's name. But they have finally released a photo fit, which we talked about ages ago, saying, why haven't they released a sketch? Because people had seen him, and there was no sketch released, and I'm sure they'll have their reasons for that. Anyway, so finally, on this sheriff, he does a podcast, apparently, and we're going to listen to his podcast. We're going to talk a little bit about the sheriff himself. We're going to talk a little bit about Rachel, of course, but I'm going to leave him to talk. He's going to talk about the case itself. And Rachel was a mum of 5 children, very similar in many ways to Samantha, because she went off to do, around a trail, the Mar and Par Trail in Maryland, But she went in the evening, on a Saturday evening, and did not come home. And unfortunately, she was found brutally murdered. I mean, they obviously they don't go into details, but I think you can gather from what Jeff says, the sheriff, it was like very brutal. And they haven't released details of, whether it was an essay as well. But I think you can presume it probably was. But anyway, the DNA was matched to a crime in Los Angeles. We looked at that last night of him leaving the home where supposedly a young girl was assaulted, but not essay. So again, we don't know the full details. The police are playing that close to the chest. But since then, they've been looking for this guy. They've got his DNA. So as soon as they get him, it'll be slam dunk, because his DNA is on record now. And it's just a question of catching him. Nobody's giving him up. Who's hiding him? Somebody knows where he is. Anyway, but before I do all that, let me say hello to everybody. And thank you for being here tonight with me to share this. So, gosh, my voice might go because I've, as I say, done quite a lot of classes tonight or today. So, hey, Chumba, you were first. It's like the world's in its place when Chumba is first. It's like the world's like correct, if you like. Hi, Tina. Hi, David. Hi, Maggie. Yes. Have you got your true crime and a glass of wine tonight? Sometimes I don't feel like it. Sometimes I do. I find that when I've had a long day of classes, it's just nice, isn't it, to have a little glass of wine. Hi, Amethyst. Hi, Wendy Woo. Hi, Kelly. Hi, Rio. Yes, my sniffles have disappeared. I think it's mental, like if you decide, I mean, I know sometimes you can't fight it, but do you think sometimes you get sniffles because you're just feeling a bit out of sorts? Anyway, they have disappeared and my headaches disappeared. I felt a lot, but I'm tired. I am tired because as I say, I've done, I've got up at 6 o'clock this morning. I've done a full day of classes. I didn't finish till 7 o'clock. So, it's a long day, but I think I thrive on work a bit. I've always been a bit of a workaholic. That's just the way I am. I'm not saying it's a good thing. It's not really. I think I said hello to Kelly, but I'll say hello to Kelly again just in case. Hi, Kelly. Hi, Charlie Angel. Hi, Mariah. Said hello to Rio. I definitely said hello to Rio. Oh dear, it's awful. Then when I go down, I get to see you all chatting. Then I forget who I've said hello to and who I haven't. Hi, Susan. Yeah, Wendy. Haven't 6 months. When you think about it, remember that was in the summer when this first happened, and I did the first video about it. Because was she missing at the time? No, I think she had been found. And JLR Investigates, who's a YouTube channel that I really like, he was doing interviews, wasn't he, with people, and we were sort of watching that, and it was it was in the summer, and 6 months, just like that, 6 months went by, and poor Rachel's family, her mother, her 5 children and their fathers, so that she had 5 children, but to 3 different fathers. So those children have been split up. So they're living with their respective fathers, whereas before they lived with Rachel. So that's another, whenever there's a crime committed, it's not only that crime, is it, that is awful. It creates ripples that go out. So as far as Rachel's concerned, first of all, he's murdered Rachel, and he's took her life. She was 37 years old, beautiful woman with, enjoying her life. She had a new partner. She's looking after her children. she's supposedly like the life and soul of the party, you know, like really the crux of her family. So not only did he take her life, but then now her family have to cope with it, her children have to cope with it. Her partner at the time, he came under, you know, suspicion, as partners do. I mean, it's like the first thing that happens, isn't it? And then when that DNA was found and connected to that case right over the other side of America in Los Angeles, the partner was cleared. But of course, it'd be the ripples for him. Just the one crime reaches out, causes so much damage over such a big spectrum. Sometimes I really honestly think all these things should be taken in consideration. You know, when they're giving a sentence for murder, it shouldn't just be for murder. They should take into account all the other things that happen. Anyway, sorry, I'm getting carried away. Yes, Charlie, that Michael said there couldn't be the people who found her said there couldn't be an open coffin. Anyway, sorry, I've lost where I was now in saying hello. Maggie, you abstain. Please don't let me be a bad influence. Yeah, maybe. You do know what? You might be right, Wendy, because I hadn't had any wine for a few days, so that's probably why I had the sniffles. Okay. So what we're going to look at. So thank you for being here. Love to all of you. I hope you're all well. I know from messages and emails that I get that there's some of you out there having a really difficult time at the moment. Honest to God, I'm genuine when I say every morning when I wake up, I do pray every morning. I'm not a religious person, but I do pray. And I do pray for all the people, you know, that I know that are going through a bad time. I even pray for twonks because I think they need it more than anything. But, you know, and I just wanted to show you, I did tonight, I lit a candle for Rachel. I'm so glad that there's some update because I think we need to keep talking about her because as time goes on, it's really funny that last night I talked about it because I didn't want Samantha's case. I don't want that to turn into a cold case, you know, and this is how it started with Rachel, especially when that DNA was found. You know, I was convinced that we were soon going to get an answer. And then there's been a couple of times where people have said, this, you know, they're close, the police are close, and then it's just dissipated into nothing. So it was nice to see today that there is a little bit of an update at least. It's just a matter of time. This candle tonight is for Rachel, but of course it's for Samantha or any missing person, not even just women, but any missing person, and for any family, you know, who wants to know what's happened to their loved one. Okay, so let's have a look at my sheriff first of all. So this update that we're going to look at comes from the Hartford Sheriff, who is Jeff Gahler, and I've just got something up about him because if we can find out where it is on here, yeah. Just so we know a little bit about him, you may remember him from when we watched, you know, I know you don't all remember every video that I've ever done, but the Hartford County Sheriff's Office, Jeffrey Gahler, we saw talking a couple of times about Rachel's case. And to me, it just seemed, he's very matter of fact. You know, what he didn't know, he admitted he didn't know. He didn't try and sort of gaslight people. He was just, these are the facts as far as we know. And if he couldn't answer a question, he would say, I'm sorry, I can't answer that question. I mean, that's all they have to say. You know, when investigations are ongoing, they cannot answer every question. So the slogan of the Hartford County Sheriff's Office is, with courage, honour and integrity, we protect the rights of all citizens. Now, someone who actually lives in Hartford County might come on and say to me, oh no, they're a pain in the arse, they're useless. Like, you know, people talk about the Lancashire police. They may give a different story. I can only give the impression I got of listening to Sheriff Gahler talking. So, Sheriff Jeff Gahler, let's hear a bit. This is him. I liked him. He's a lot younger than me. That everyone's a lot younger than me these days. That's the problem. Sheriff Jeff Gahler was first elected to the role of Hartford County Sheriff in 2014, so 10 years. As the gosh, I've only had half a glass of wine and I already can't speak. That's because I've not eaten. As the primary law enforcement agency in Hartford County and the largest sheriff's office in the state of Maryland, the Hartford County Sheriff's Office is responsible for providing law enforcement, correctional services, and court services for Hartford County's 268,000 residents. So that's a sizable community, isn't it? Sheriff Gahler leads a workforce of 680. I'd like to work for Sheriff Gahler. Sheriff Gahler, in fact, I might email him and say, have you got any jobs for sort of Spanish teachers? Oh, yeah, because they need someone to speak Spanish. I bet they were really actually totally thrown when they have to speak to the Spanish community. Anyway, Sheriff Gahler leads a workforce of 680 sworn and civilian personnel and oversees an annual budget of more than, oh God, I'm useless with figures. Is that $117 million? Isn't it? Is it? Anyway, someone will put me right. I can't work out figures. I'm dyslexic with numbers. Sheriff Gahler, but I speak 5 languages. You can't do everything in life. Sheriff Gahler is a veteran law enforcer. Actually, I don't speak 5 languages. I speak 4 languages. Did I include English in that? Sorry, I'm digressing. Yes, 4 languages, including English. And then also talking rubbish, that's an extra one. Sheriff Gahler is a veteran law enforcement officer, having previously served 28 years during a distinguished career with the Maryland State Police, and is a strong advocate for continual self-improvement and education, having earned his associate's, bachelor's and master's degrees, all while employed by the state police. He has taken this commitment further by adding his expertise to the public safety leaders of tomorrow, by returning to teach in the Public Safety Leadership Program at Johns Hopkins University, and by being a founding operating partner in the Advanced Leadership Consortium, a company focused on providing quality training and consulting services to public safety organizations and private businesses. Sheriff Gahler, a 46-year-old, so he's too young for me, really. Anyway, never mind. Little toy boy. A 46-year-old resident, can't afford a toy boy, unfortunately. A 46-year resident of Hartford County resides in the Forest Hill area of the county with his wife, Sonia. Oh, he's married, and their 2 daughters, Shelby and Sydney. Oh, he's lovely. Oh, so that's him. That's the sheriff who's doing this podcast about Rachel that we're going to be looking at. Oh, Gail Hardy, thank you so much. That's really kind. Thank you for that. I was going to say, just wanted to add, and I know, listen, my chatterati, no, but if you in the comments, just be respectful. Sometimes, not my normal chatterati, but on my comments sometimes, as far as Rachel's concerned, because Rachel was a very glamorous woman. She obviously spent a lot of money on herself. She took a lot of selfies, like you know, people do these days and looking perfect, etc. And she took a lot, you know, people were nasty. Some people were nasty, as if she's not allowed to sort of make herself look as good as she wants to look. You know, this just drives me absolutely mad that women get based, you know, on their appearance. What does it matter? You know, whatever she had or hadn't paid for, it was her money. She's entitled to do it herself. Really drives me mad. So just one thing, I know I don't have to say it to most of you out there, but occasionally we do get, you know, twonks, don't we? Hi Katrina, hope you're feeling okay. Occasionally we do get twonks. Hi DMV. And so, you know, please don't be a twonk. David. Oh no. Oh, do you think I should send the sheriff? Thank you for that, girl. Do you think I should send him a Valentine's card? Oh, because that's the other thing I wanted to say. Thank you. So many people have sent lovely things, you know, for the Valentine's Day stream that I'm doing on Wednesday. And the other thing I wanted to say, which I probably, you know, I just want to say is it's leap year this year, ladies. So if any of you are out there and you'd like to ask someone to marry you, I'm going to ask one of my dogs to marry me, I think. You know, I can't think of a man that I'd quite like to marry, and certainly not the person you mentioned, David. I'm not that I'm sure he would be interested in marrying me anyway. But yeah, maybe the sheriff, you know, she might get fed up with him. You know, she might get fed up with him, his wife. Anyway, no, I'm only it's a joke. So, you know, if there's any twonks out there, my little trolleys and whatever, you're going to think, oh, this is serious. It's a joke. You remember jokes? Do you remember jokes? Anyway, so, sorry, where am I? Rio, you're going to ask our killers. Ask our killers to marry you. Well, he might know a single sheriff, mightn't he? He might know a single sheriff. So, you know, even though he's not single, he might have a single friend, you know, who's, oh, no, I'm only joking. I am so only joking. I don't want to be washing anyone's socks or, you know what I mean? I just don't, you know, unless, you know, they wanted to wash my socks maybe, but I'm not interested in looking after anyone. I need someone to look after me. Yeah, it'd be worth talking to him just to say that, David. Is that, you know, I've always wanted to say that line. Is that a gun in your pocket, or are you just glad to see me? Oh dear. Now we can't be something about a man in uniform, Mariah. There definitely is something about a man in uniform. Gosh, my voice is going. Unfortunately, I'm just too old now, probably. Anyway, so let's be serious. We should be serious because we will have on Wednesday night, we will be doing more of this, like being silly. That's what we're going to do on Wednesday night, on Valentine's night. I hope, you know, I know a lot of you will join me. A lot of you will be doing romantic things and good, you know, just make the most of it. And if you're not, please come and join us here. Exactly, Katrina. Not washing men's clothes. I'm not cooking. I don't mind cooking sometimes, but I'm not feeling obliged to do any of that rubbish for anyone. Done it for years. Done it, been there, seen it, got the t-shirt, not doing it anymore. Rio, no, you can't work on Wednesday. You can't. Yeah, DMV, you've already got 2 boys' socks to wash. I've only got one, but he's older now. He does his own washing. But, you know, I've done it for years. Anyway, never mind. Okay, so let's look at this update because I don't know whether I should feel encouraged by this update because hopefully it's not going to be another 6 months for you know, it's frustrating for us, but this doesn't affect our lives, does it? Except that I do feel for them, but it doesn't affect my life. Imagine Rachel's mum and dad, Rachel's sisters, because she comes from quite a big family herself, her children. You know, imagine them, what it's like for them knowing that this man is out there. This man is out there and he could do it again. You know, so I just cannot imagine. Okay, so let's go to the Twitter. So this came up on Twitter. Let me share it. From the Hartford Sherrif. I've started following him now. I'm stalking him now on Twitter. I'm not stalking him. I'm following him on Twitter. There's a difference. You know, people seem to get confused with what real stalking is. But anyway, this is not stalking, just following someone on Twitter. So here is the mugshot. Now, when I first saw this, I thought he looked younger. That I can see the nose there because we've seen the CCTV or the dash cam, not dash cam, the door cam footage of him coming out of that property in Los Angeles, and you could see him so clearly. You knew that if you knew that man, you would recognize him. Now this is supposed to be his front face. He looks quite young, doesn't he? Because they reckoned he was late 20s, early 30s. That face to me looks a little bit younger, but maybe not with the hat on. But anyway, this is the sketch that finally, after 6 months, why has it taken 6 months, I wonder, to come up with this sketch? Because he was, you know, they had that video and they had spoken to those people in that house right back in sort of August, late August, September time. So it's taken all this time to come out with this sketch. It's quite odd, isn't it? Gosh, you know, you just wish you could be a fly on the wall, don't you, know what's going on, because there'd be so much going on. So anyway, so what he says, the Hartford Sherrif, Rachel Morin update and new details. We sat down with Captain Andy Lane, who is overseeing the investigation to find Rachel's killer, with never before released details. Now, I've listened to a little bit of this podcast, but I just didn't have time to listen to it all of it, because I just tried to catch a bit of it in between classes. And already just the first sort of 10 minutes that I listened to, there were details that came out that I'd not heard them say before. So it was very interesting. So, but most of it I've been listening to with you for the first time. So he says, we hope you will take a listen and share the sketch released today. So I've shared this on Twitter. I'm going to put it on the YouTube channel. I'm going to put it on the Facebook. I'm going to put it on everything. But, and I'm going to play this podcast. We're going to listen to this podcast together. It's quite unusual for a sheriff to have a podcast, do you think? Do you think that's a good idea? I mean, it can't be a bad idea, really, can it, when they're looking for someone? I just hope, I hope there's not going to be any copyright claim on it. But anyway, we're going to listen to it. So this is the guy. This is the guy. I mean, he just looks like a boy, maybe because I had, you know, I've got a 27-year-old boy, man, he's a man. But, you know, you never think of him as a man, do you? And he looks young. And he has that very distinct haircut. A couple of you have mentioned it in chat. And we noticed that on the video, this haircut fade, though. It is a fashionable haircut, though. It's called a fade, isn't it? And, you know, my son's had that haircut before. At the moment, you know, he changes his hair often. At the moment, he's just grown it out to see what happens and decide what he's going to do with it. But he's had this haircut and he's not in the military. So, you know, not necessarily a military haircut. It can be like a fashion type thing. So, but it does look a little bit oh, DMV, it's a high skin fade, because DMV knows, because probably her sons have yeah, it's a high skin fade apparently. I know it's a fade something. Oh, it's hailstoning up in Scotland. Anyway, hi Amanda Jane. So let's hear what my sheriff, I call him my sheriff Gahler has to say. Let's have a listen to this podcast. Oh, hang on, I've shared it. Hang on. Good job, I noticed.
Investigators
Okay, let's go back to the beginning.
focused on it every single day. All right. Hi, this is Sheriff Jeff Gahler, Hartford County Sheriff, and welcome to this special edition of the Sheriff Spotlight. I got to say, I wish it was a happier topic that we were going to start off with for a special one, but today's episode, we're going to be discussing the Rachel Morin homicide case that our office has been investigating, and we are now at the 6-month anniversary since that tragic day and that loss of life here in our community, and still working hard on solving this case. Our investigators are focused on it every single day. But joining me today for this special broadcast is Major Jack Simpson, who's the chief of our Investigative Services Bureau, and
So he said we're focused on it every single day, and I believe him. I think this case, of course, they will want to solve it. You know, it's hard for us to believe that after all this time, this guy has still not been identified. But I think he will have been identified. It's just a question of where is he? Has he fled the country? Is he still alive? We just don't know. But somebody somewhere knows where he is, and the reward now is $35,000.
leading the investigation into the case from our office is Captain Andy Lane, who's the commander of our Criminal Investigations Division. And I'm going to ask Andy just to, we're going to get started here and just maybe a little bit of recap. Although I think the whole world knows Rachel's story, we know there's people out there who still need to be caught up. So a little bit about what happened 6 months ago.
Yes, sir. So the sheriff's office began this investigation when we received a phone call about a missing mother that she had gone for a run that evening.
I love the way he says, yes, sir, like that. It's like, what is it about uniforms? Oh my God, it's like, just the way I love the way they talk. I like the way both of them talk. Voices are nice, aren't they? Sorry, I'm getting carried away now. No more vino.
And she didn't return. Her children, who were younger children, one of them a teenager and the other one under that age, were left at home, and that wasn't like her. She normally would leave for a run in the evenings and be home within 45 minutes. So when she didn't return, a friend of hers called the sheriff's office and said that they were concerned for her well-being and they didn't know where she was. The sheriff's office, of course, started looking right away and tried to find Miss Morin. And what they located right away was Rachel's vehicle at a trailhead along a popular trail here in Hartford County called the Ma and Pa Trail. At this point, it was probably about later evening, 10 o'clock in the evening, and it was concerning that her vehicle would still be there because although she frequently ran that trail, she would not have been there that late into the evening.
Yeah, now I think that's something we didn't know before, that she'd said she would be gone 30 minutes. So I don't think that's been released before. And I presume that was her boyfriend that she said that to, that she would be gone 30 minutes. And when she didn't come back after a certain length of time, then they got concerned. And I think it was her partner who went to the trail and saw that her car was still in the car park. It's terribly sad, isn't it? It's awful, actually. Awful. This man needs to be caught.
So that began a large-scale search through the Ma and Pa Trail and the surrounding area, which ultimately, unfortunately, led to the discovery the following morning of Rachel's remains.
And I remember that day, obviously, very vividly. We had two missing person cases going simultaneously. One that there was some concern, or at least community concern that they could be related. And we knew from the information we had that certainly they were two distinct situations. One resolved later, fine for everyone involved. And sadly, Rachel's case resulted in the discovery of her body. So I think just a little bit, we'll go ahead into the steps after the discovery.
So that's interesting what he said there. There were two cases running simultaneously in that area. And he said that the other person, it was resolved. But unfortunately, in Rachel's case, of course, it led to the discovery of her body the following day. So the thing is, most missing persons cases are resolved with a happy ending, aren't they? People do disappear, then they turn up or they're found, or something's happened, but then you get these missing person cases that lead to death, and also missing person cases that sometimes are never resolved. I mean, and we quite often talk about what would be worse. Imagine not knowing what had happened to your loved one. There's a there's a positive side of it that you'd always be thinking, oh, well, they may be okay, living a nice life somewhere. But then there's also that thing, as years go on, are they even still alive, and are they suffering? It's just awful to imagine how it must feel.
So when Rachel's
Well, you can't imagine it, I think, unless you've actually been through it. Sometimes people, you try and empathize and you try and put yourself in their position, but you can't do that actually.
remains were located, the Ma and Pa Trail, if anybody's not familiar, is a large trail that runs through, like I said, about a 7-mile section of Hartford County. This particular portion of the trail is well graded and open. Along the side of this trail, there are two large drainage culverts that run under a local highway. Those drainage culverts are hidden during the summertime by trees and shrubbery, and aren't something that most people would see. I myself have been down that trail many times, and I wasn't aware that those culverts were there.
Yeah, now I think this was important, wasn't it? Remember these drainage tunnels that were talked about, and Michael, who was interviewed by JLR, he knew about these drainage tunnels, and it's like that policeman was saying, he lives in the area, he didn't know about them. This guy, he was familiar with those woods. I've often thought, was he living there in one of those, they've talked about them a lot with the Samantha. This is how cases can be so linked, even though they're so far apart. So people that have been searching for Samantha over in Australia have said about these homeless encampments in these great big parks, if you like, or these great big nature trails, etc. Sometimes homeless people make encampments there, and I think that's Michael mentioned that when he was interviewed by JLR about the homeless encampments on the Ma and Pa Trail. So I've often thought, was this guy living in one of these homeless encampments because he'd have fled Los Angeles because of the warrant out for his arrest in Los Angeles? That was a couple of months earlier, this assault that he'd done on a young girl there. So did he flee? He must have known someone. I mean, to go to Maryland, he must know someone there. He hadn't just gone to Maryland, unless it's just the furthest place away from where he was. But has he fled there, and then he's living in one of these homeless encampments, hiding, under the radar? And but whoever did it, this policeman is saying it here now, whoever did it, they knew these drainage culverts because that's where they took poor Rachel to do whatever they did to her. So, somebody was familiar with those woods.
In this instance, we could see from the scene that Rachel was ultimately attacked on the trail. That area of the trail there was a bend in the trail that most likely was used by the individual who committed this crime, who attacked Rachel on the trail, pulled her through the wooded area um, into this drainage culvert where she ultimately lost her life.
And this is a little bit of information we've kind of held close to the chest, if you will, that we haven't released as far as what the actual location of the homicide was. So, we are, again, as we hit the 6 month mark, looking back at everything that we've done, some of the information that we've been less than, a little leery about releasing too many details. So this is something new. A lot of people ask me routinely, is that where this homicide occurred? And kind of everyone's familiar with who's familiar with the trail. Everyone local is familiar with the hiking trail that goes underneath of Route 24.
Mhm.
These drainage tunnels are north of that a short distance, but as you said, in the summer, particularly, you can't really make them out.
No, they're I would say they're not intentionally, but they are hidden by shrubbery and growth, and a lot of people within the community, I don't believe, are aware that they're there. It's not something that the average person would notice. So it obviously the location of the attack was chosen, I think, most likely for because those culverts were as close as they were, and they provided an area for this person to try to commit this crime and not be seen by members of the public.
At that hour of the day.
So from what he's saying there, it sounds like he thinks that it was deliberately, had he been following Rachel and then waited until she was near the culverts because he knew where the culverts were, and that's when he made his attack. A couple of things that Jeff says that I noticed that he said in the beginning of this video, it was as if he was following her, tracking her, waiting around the corner for her. It would be easy to hide behind trees and things like that. I don't know if Rachel had her earbuds on or whatever, and she wasn't taking. You've got to be so aware. I saw a friend of mine walking round the campo near me with her earbuds in, and I said to her, "Look, you should not be wearing them, because you need to be hearing if somebody's coming up behind you, because I watch so much true crime, I'm like paranoid. And then some people just are oblivious to it. Some people wouldn't even think about it. They put their earbuds in, they start running, walking, whatever. They don't even take notice of what's going on around them. I'm the total opposite. It's like I notice everything, but that's because of all the true crime that I've watched.
On this particular day, is that trail well used?
This portion of the trail is well used during this time of the day. In fact, we've spoken to a number of witnesses who have been able to tell us that not only did they see Rachel that day, but they saw Rachel almost every day at the same time on the trail, walking and running and exercising in the same area. This person obviously took the time to be familiar with the area because he was familiar with the culverts we spoke of, and he was also most likely or potentially familiar with Rachel, who had a time of day she liked to run. And this.
See, that's interesting. Now, this is the first time they've said that he may have seen Rachel many times, because other people have said that they saw Rachel. Rachel's very distinctive, blonde, bombshell, beautiful. You would notice her, whether you're a man or a woman. If Rachel walked past you, you would not notice. She didn't blend into the background. She was very distinctive. Let me see if I can show some photos without, for those of you who don't remember what she looked like. I mean, I try when I show pictures of her, I try and show the more, the more, not so glamorous pictures, if you like, because people say nasty things. She's very, let's have a look. I can find her on here and show. She's very glamorous. You just would notice her. I would notice her. A man would notice her, a woman would notice her, anybody would notice her. She's distinctive. So let's have a little look. So we can see, if you saw Rachel, you know, walking in those woods, you wouldn't forget her. You know, she's very blonde, she's very sort of buxom, she's attractive, and you know, it's a terrible shame that it's not her fault if she wants to go out running and she wants to dress in whatever she wants to dress in or however she wants to look. But unfortunately, people judge women because she wanted to look the best that she could. So I think what Jeff is saying there is so true. If you saw her, you wouldn't forget her, and so it's possible that she was being watched, you know, and then one day just found the right time to do whatever he'd been maybe planning to do for quite a long time. Right, won't start again now. Come on. Oh, why will it not start again? Hang on, I need to fast forward a bit. Oh, you can't stop it and go back to the bit. Oh, hang on. Okay, sorry. Here we go. Oh, it was a hat. Oh, hang on, hang on, hang on. There you go.
Or do we think that this was a completely random act? And I've been doing, police work 40 years. Major Simpson's on par with me, and you're just slightly behind that. So a lot of police experience in the room. My gut tells me she was stalked. But until we catch this person, I also, have been putting out there, that the fact that it could have just been a crime of opportunity. He could have laid in wait on that trail for Rachel or whichever um, female decided to come down that trail at a time when there were no other people in sight. More or less a crime of opportunity. So really, that's kind of what we have said so far. We don't have information. We've developed no information to say she was specifically targeted.
We have developed no information, sir, that says that she was specifically targeted. However, in interviewing witnesses and speaking to people on the trail at that time, it would appear that there was an individual who was standing within the woodline in an area that's slightly elevated immediately around the time of this assault. And I would agree with you, sir, that I don't know that Rachel was specifically targeted, but I do believe that that area was chosen as an area that they wanted to assault someone.
Right. Yeah, that's kind of the distinction we've made. I believe, in my heart, that someone picked her, specifically her, but we until we have him in custody and we can say that 100%.
That's interesting. That's the first time that they've said that somebody had been seen in the area on an elevated position as if they were looking for somebody to attack. I think they may have been waiting for Rachel. If she went there every day at a similar time, and as we can see, you would notice Rachel, you would remember her. Maybe you'd been thinking about it for a long time. Maybe you'd been sort of, she'd become a little bit obsessed with Rachel. And I agree with you, David. I think Michael does know something about that guy. I thought it right from the beginning that he knows something more. I'm not saying he's responsible, but I do feel he might know something. But anyway, time will tell.
Could have been likely he just picked the location and Rachel was the unfortunate person who was there at that time.
That's correct, sir.
So go ahead from there with kind of recapping.
So Rachel, as I said, was located on the trail that day inside that culvert, and that began a long process with the sheriff's office and our forensic services unit, processing the crime scene and attempting to recover any type of evidence we could that could link the suspect in this case to the scene. That process took us the remainder of that day and into the following days as well. Um, After that, after the scene was processed, uh, a search began for, which is continuing to this day, a search began for witnesses who were in the area, who could describe what they saw, who was in the area, and uh, and anything else that would help us lead to the suspect in this case. As we were processing the scene and what moves happened in the days following, in processing the scene, we recovered genetic material that we were able to use uh, through the Maryland State Police Crime Lab to attempt to identify the suspect. That genetic material ultimately was entered into a system called CODIS, which is a national DNA database. CODIS contains not only known offenders, but it also contains DNA samples from other unsolved crimes with unknown suspects. In this case, CODIS was a huge break for us. And what we were able to do with that database was link this crime to another unsolved crime in the state of California, in Los Angeles specifically, which was a home invasion, is how I would describe it right now. And in that instance, that suspect left behind a hat, and that hat was collected by the Los Angeles Police Department, and DNA was located on that hat, and that DNA was entered into CODIS.
That's the first time that they've mentioned that. Remember, we were saying, oh, I wonder where they got the. That's why we thought it might be an SEX attack, because for them to have DNA, but he's left a hat behind, he's left a cap behind. And that's why on that photo fit that we saw earlier, one of them had the cap on, didn't it? Yeah, so God, they just need to, God, the day that they catch him, I will be having champagne, I'll tell you, because he I'm sure they'll all be having champagne. I bet they're desperate to find him, because once he's actually caught, it's slam dunk. They've got his DNA, they've got the cap, they've got witnesses, they've got the photo fit, they've got, once he's caught, that's it for him. He's not going to get away with it. So that's another reason why they've got to be so careful what they release and what they don't release, because they don't want to jeopardize any future trial when they've got such a secure case.
When we entered our sample in from our crime scene, those two matched. So that allowed us ultimately to be able to recover video evidence that showed us who our suspect was, which we hadn't seen, and allowed us to link two crimes that occurred on opposite sides of the country.
And I do believe that's another specific piece of information that we kind of not been, that we have not released previously, as far as it being a hat that we released that before.
We have publicly
Okay,
commented on that. Yes.
Okay, and I knew that the public knew that we had recovered DNA, or I should say, Los Angeles Police Department recovered DNA that matched to our crime scene here, but I wasn't sure that what the tool was, or what the item was that was left behind by the suspect. So going to that case, and it was in March, so it was basically 6 months earlier than Rachel's case, or 5 months earlier. The case in LA, and it caused me to think, and this is a question I've got a lot: what brought the suspect here? And I've been clear that we really have no information to say that the suspect lives there and came here, or that the suspect, very well, the suspect could live out here and have traveled out there in March. We know he was there in March. We know he was here in August. We don't know where he is in between.
That's correct, sir. We know that through the course of the investigation.
So imagine that. So they know he was in Los Angeles in March because of the DNA, the cap, etc. And they know in August he was in Maryland, right over the other side of America. I mean, it literally is right over the other side. It would take a long time to get there, unless it's an overnight flight if you went on a plane. But would he have wanted to go on a plane, or would he have driven there? How has he got from one place to another? Is he a trucker? Is he in the military? Just he could be based in, I don't know, where is the USA at war at the moment, everywhere more or less normally. But you know that we don't. So they know where he was in March. They know where he was in August. But that's a big gap in between March and August. Where was he? Somebody knows where he was. And where is he now, of course? So it's been another 6 months now. Is he hiding out in some park somewhere again? You know, is somebody hiding him? A member of his family? Has he left the country? Is he even dead? You know, has he deleted himself? And that's a whole lot of, you know, talk about checking CCTV. It was difficult enough in St. Michael's with the Nicola Bulley case, or it's difficult enough in London with the chemical attacker. Imagine trying to check CCTV across a whole country the size of America. You know, because I just think surely they would have seen him on some CCTV somewhere. And so, but of course they may have that and just not have told us that. So.
Which is in a unique situation when we have two violent attacks that happen on opposite sides of the country within a 6-month period. We're of course interested about what other crimes could have occurred throughout the country, throughout the state of California, state of Maryland, and everywhere in between. We have nothing right now that would indicate yet that there's been other crimes this individual perpetrated in between. However, he could be, as you said, sir, a resident of the state of Maryland who went to California, or a resident of the state of California who came here, or he could be a resident of another state and just traveled in between those two. Until we locate him, we really won't know.
Okay, and I know we've also that case out there. I get that. Could you tell us more about what happened in Los Angeles? And I know that is not our investigation, and we certainly cannot speak on behalf of the Los Angeles Police Department. But as you said earlier, that's an active investigation by that police department. So we've been, I guess, limited in what we are going to say or should say, since another police department has a serious crime that they are also investigating. But what can you share? Obviously, the video came from there. What else can you share about that scene out there?
I think I can share.
Now, it's funny because they keep referring to that crime, whatever the crime was in Los Angeles. They were referring to it as a home invasion. But Jeff, right there then, has just said, well, don't forget the police are investigating another serious crime in Los Angeles. So they're saying that whatever he did in Los Angeles was serious too. So we don't know the whole thing about that either, do we? So there's so much that we don't know. But I do love the way that they're telling us what they can tell us, but without jeopardizing their investigation. You know, and I'm so glad that they've given it, because it was starting to feel like, you know, sometimes I expect that's how her family feel. You know, sometimes it must feel like it's been forgotten. She's been forgotten, but it's nice to know that she hasn't been forgotten.
The fact that, yes, this case is actively investigated by the Los Angeles Police Department, who did initially recover that hat, which was an excellent find and enabled us to be able to link these two crimes together. That crime that occurred there was also a violent attack. There's nothing that we know right now that would point us to the belief that it was anything other than a random attack. There were multiple people within that home who were injured, and there were minor children who were injured as well in that attack. I think that case, along with this case, highlight how dangerous this individual is and how important it is to locate him.
Oh my God, did you hear that? So he said there were multiple people in that home injured in that attack, and 2 children. Let's listen to that again if I can work out how to do it. Oh my God. And yet when he left that house, when we saw that video of him leaving that house, it was like he was just, you know, he just went off with his shirt off, like he was just, you know, going for a stroll. Let's listen to that again. That's the first time they've said this as well.
Throughout the state of California, state of Maryland, and everywhere in between. We have nothing right now that would indicate yet that there's been other crimes this individual perpetrated in between. However, he could be, as you said, sir, a resident of the state of Maryland who went to California, or a resident of the state of California who came here, or he could be a resident of another state and just traveled in between those two. Until we locate him, we really won't know.
Okay, and I know we've also that case out there. I get that. Could you tell us more about what happened in Los Angeles, and that is not our investigation, and we certainly cannot speak on behalf of the Los Angeles Police Department. But as you said earlier, that's an active investigation by that police department. So we've been, I guess, limited in what we are going to say or should say, since another police department has a serious crime that they are also investigating. But what can you share? Obviously, the video came from there. What else can you share about that scene out there?
I think I can share the fact that yes, this case is actively investigated by the Los Angeles Police Department, who did initially recover that hat, which was an excellent find and enabled us to be able to link these two crimes together. That crime that occurred there was also a violent attack. There's nothing that we know right now that would point us to the belief that it was anything other than a random attack. There were multiple people within that home who were injured, and there were minor children who were injured as well in that attack. I think that case, along with this case, highlight how dangerous.
Gosh, multiple people injured and minor children injured. That's, what the fuck? Honest to God. Just shows you, isn't it? You just don't know what's going on in these cases. They release, the police, if they're any good, they release little bits, but they can't release everything, and then find this is like a revelation. Because initially, all they said there was a young girl involved. They said it was not an SEX attack, but that was it. And now suddenly, multiple people and 2 minor children. Oh God, this guy he just, he's like a right twonk, isn't he? I mean, he's the twonk of twonks. He is not a nice person. We knew that, just obviously from murdering Rachel, but surely he hasn't gone a year. So surely in a whole year he hasn't only done 2 things. These sort of people normally they just can't stop themselves. After he's done that to Rachel, surely he'll have wanted it to do it against someone else. He will have liked it. He's a multiple offender. He's not like I don't know, just someone who's got carried away in a rage or whatever. He's planned it. He's horrible. Oh my God. Come on, Jeff, you've got to catch this guy.
This individual is, and how important it is to locate him for public safety.
To be clear, the DNA that was collected from the crime scene in LA was that of an unnamed, as of yet unnamed suspect.
That's correct, sir. The CODIS database does contain known offenders. I'm sure a lot of people are aware that people convicted of certain qualifying crimes provide a DNA sample that's entered into CODIS. But CODIS contains also standards from unknown crime scenes. And this is an instance where we collected DNA, or the Los Angeles Police Department collected DNA with an unknown suspect. But there's value to that, whether the suspect is known or not, because it allows us to link crimes together as we did in this situation.
Okay. So go on a little bit with what we can discuss from that crime scene in Los Angeles. Is there more that we can speak about?
I think we could say that I think people who have seen the video we released, which is obviously from Los Angeles. This individual approached a residence in the city of Los Angeles and entered that residence. He didn't live there. He was not known to the residents. And after entering the home, I don't want to get into a whole lot of details other than to say that he violently and physically attacked multiple people, to include a child, that were hurt during that incident.
So he's saying he did not know the people in that house. Oh gosh, I had heard that before. I remember it being said before. It was some sort of party or something, and he sort of almost gate crashed it, maybe. So why did he end up hurting people?
And that, again, I think it just goes to the dangerousness and the need for us to be able to track this person down before he harms someone else.
And this is something else I get a lot of questions about, and have spoken about the escalation from what happened there in March. Again, we don't know whether he's there, where he might lay his head at night, but we do know from March till August, he certainly escalated in violence and moving from assault, even serious, but to taking a life. The kind of the other questions I get related to Los Angeles and the cameras themselves are kind of twofold, and maybe I'll throw them both out there and see what you say. Because one is we have the video footage of the Ring doorbell camera of him departing, and the manner in which he departs, which does not seem in most people's views to be the way that someone found in your home illegally assaulting people would be exiting a residence. And if we have him going out, why don't we have him coming in? And when I say we, it's not. It's, again, that's the Los Angeles crime scene.
Yes, sir. The reason you can't see him entering the home is because the doorbell camera, obviously, like we all have these doorbell cameras now in modern society, are only placed on generally the area of the front door. Without going into how this gentleman entered the home or the suspect entered the home, he did not enter through the front door and wouldn't have been captured by the doorbell camera.
Well, there you go. That's another new thing, isn't it? So what they're saying is like, yeah, people, it's exactly what we questioned. Why was he not seen going in? How did he go in? Do you remember that other, there was some other sort of CCTV of him sort of stretching and a woman was walking towards him and she seemed to know him. But basically what Jeff is saying there, that is the proviso, if you like, of the Los Angeles police. So they cannot release, they can only talk about what the Los Angeles police have released. So, what I need to do is delve into the Los Angeles sheriff. I bet he's not as nice as Jeff, but maybe he is, maybe. But, maybe they're showing different things, or maybe they're being more close with their information because maybe his main contacts are there in Los Angeles rather than in Maryland. So, they're walking a tightrope, aren't they?
As far as the manner in which he exited the house, we've received comments through tip lines about that too. And I think we all have to take a step back sometimes and realize that this person entered a home. He, in the middle of the night, violently attacked a family, and that family reacted. They were scared. There was a lot of yelling going around at the time, and they forced him from the home. I think people oftentimes believe that this family should have held this person there, or they should have, in some way tried to stop him. And I think that's not always possible. And that this attack was stopped by a member of that family, who I think um, acted in the best interest of everyone there and did everything that he could do to get that person out of the home. And ultimately, I think, although he did escalate his crime, as we were just saying, between here in Maryland and in California, I think had that crime not been interrupted in California, it most likely would have ended the exact same way our crime ended here.
That's a very good point. And I agree with that from what I know of the case. Talk to me about the arm, the infamous arm, because that's something that so many of our social media followers.
Oh my God, let me just listen to that again. Did you hear what he just said then? I'm sure he just said, didn't he, that if the family wouldn't have acted, it would have ended up the same as Rachel, as the crime that he committed in Maryland.
We have him coming in. And when I say we, it's not, again, that's the Los Angeles crime scene.
Yes, sir. The reason you can't see him entering the home is because the doorbell camera, obviously, like we all have these doorbell cameras now in modern society, are only placed on generally the area of the front door. Without going into how this gentleman entered the home or the suspect entered the home, he did not enter through the front door and wouldn't have been captured by the doorbell camera. As far as the manner in which he exited the house, we've received comments through tip lines about that too. And I think we all have to take a step back sometimes and realize that this person entered a home. He, in the middle of the night, violently attacked a family, and that family reacted. They were scared. There was a lot of yelling going around at the time, and they forced him from the home. I think people oftentimes believe that this family should have held this person there, or they should have, in some way tried to stop him. And I think that's not always possible. And that this attack was stopped by a member of that family, who I think acted in the best interest of everyone there and did everything that he could do to get that person out of the home. And ultimately, I think, although he did escalate his crime, as we were just saying, between here in Maryland and in California, I think had that crime not been interrupted in California, it most likely would have ended the exact same way our crime ended here.
That's a very good point. And I agree with that from what I know of the case. Talk to me about the arm, the infamous arm, because that's something that so many of our social media followers have commented on, the arm in the video.
Do you like the way see how Jeff sort of encourages social media? It's not like, oh, social media, you're all twats, like, what are you even talking about this for? He says, our social media followers, it's like at least they've accepted we live in a modern world and social media is in, like it or not, it's here and it isn't going anywhere. So make it work for you, make it, control it, deal with it, make, the way that I feel like about, look at the way that everybody feels about the Lancashire police and all that sort of, there's no respect, is there, about anything. And look how different it feels that he's talking calmly about it, giving the information he can, not criticizing the social media, just saying we can say this, we can't say. This is what you do. Act like a grown-up. Where's the grown-ups in today's world? In all walks of life, it feels like that sometimes now. Where's the grown-ups? I love the way, this is why I like him. This is why I like him, because of the way he talks so reasonably, and he accepts, social media are going to be interested. What are you going to say to people? Oh no, you shouldn't be interested. This is the way of the world now. Accept it. It's like saying, I don't know, it's like trying to say that people shouldn't do things just because you think they shouldn't. You want to go back 20 years. Just that have to accept the modern world, whether you like it or not. There's lots of things I don't like about the modern world, but I have to move with it because this is where I am now.
The arm in the video is the suspect, when he's in the home, winds up assaulting two family members who were unable to defend themselves. A third family member, who is a younger person, enters that room and manages to surprise the suspect and begin to force him out of the home. As the suspect flees the home, this individual, who is frightened and is scared and is a younger person and doesn't understand why someone's in his home attacking his family members, the suspect, other people in the home begin to wake up. And he realizes now that there's multiple people in the home. They're yelling at him. He's trying to just exit the home. So as soon as he leaves the door, that younger person who actually interrupted the crime scene slams the door shut and locks it, and then immediately calls the police.
Yeah, there you go. That's it. So it sounds as if he went in through a bedroom window or something. There were two children in that bedroom. Then somebody's hurt and they were shouting and yelling. Then this young boy, it sounds like, again, they're not giving the details, but this is what it sounds like, creates enough of a fuss so that guy, the twonk, realizes that he should just, and as he was going, was he trying to placate that boy? I mean, I did feel that they shut the door very quickly behind him. It was like, God. So what he's saying is they shut the door behind him, they locked the door, then they rang the police. They were probably scared in the moment. It's just like, just go. We won't say anything. We won't go to the police. Just please go, and they just want to be getting him out of there. It did feel like maybe he was trying to say something to whoever that person was with the arm. He was probably trying to say, oh, I'm sorry, or load of twonkery. And the boy has been, I'm saying boy because it sounded like it was a boy from what he was saying, has been quick-thoughted enough, if you like, quick-thinking enough to say, look, just go, and I promise I won't go to the police, and that. Slammed the door behind him, locked the door, and rang the police, presumably.
So again, we've heard this a lot too, and I understand people are trying to help, but it's it's a difficult situation that that young man went through. And I think he did everything he could to try to protect his family. And he just wanted the suspect out of his home. And then as soon as he left, locked the door and called the police for assistance.
So obviously that's how we tie to Los Angeles and to the video that we were able to release. And again, we had a press conference releasing that video as soon as it came into our possession, to make sure that the public knew what to be on the lookout for, and in hopes of identifying this individual. And here we are 6 months in, and we still haven't been able to get a name. And I believe somebody out there is going to see that video and recognize that person, and we just need to make sure it stays in the public eye to the best we can. But how many tips related to this case would you say you and your investigators have followed up on? And I get the question, has this turned to a cold case at this point?
This case absolutely is not turned into a cold case, sir. It's being actively investigated every day. We were actually just today conducting interviews in this case. We've received well over 1,000 tips, and every one of those tips is followed up on to ensure.
It's so good to hear him say that it hasn't turned into a cold case. It can't be a cold case ever, really, if they've got the DNA, in my opinion.
Sure that nothing's missed. Then they've come in from all across the country.
And where do you follow these tips? As far as, can you outline a few of the tips that are the types of tips that you've received?
Sure, we'll receive tips from people who, from the very generic, from people who tell us that I was in a grocery store, or I was at some other local business, and I believe I saw somebody who matches the description. People who call us to tell us that they live in a different state, but they believe this individual resides in their community, whether it be an apartment community or whether it be a residential home. People who tell us that they have family members who they believe could have been involved and where those people live. And really, it runs the gamut of people who I think, see this story, realize how tragic it is that Rachel, a single mother, lost her life, and they want to reach out and try to help. And it's been great. And every one of those tips, we'll take every tip we can, and we try to run them down to the ground. And I agree with you, sir, that we know through the course of the investigation, this individual was here in Hartford County, most likely for a couple of weeks prior, several weeks prior to this happening. And I agree that there are people here in our community who know who he is. He resided with somebody when he was here. He ate at local stores. He had a home, and there are people who know who he is. And what we really need is those people to realize that this is a dangerous individual, and they really need to step up for the community and identify who he is.
And this would probably be a good time to point out that the reward on giving us that piece of information currently stands at $35,000 to give us information that identifies that subject and helps us make an arrest in this case.
Yes, sir. That's true.
And you did speak about the family, and I know from speaking to you, from speaking to the major, and even seeing meeting with the family members before a canvas that some of your people did back right before Christmas.
Yes, sir.
That we've been working with the family. Obviously, as you said, we have Rachel, the mother of 5, right?
Mm-hmm.
A young mom.
Hi, Mark. Thank you very much for becoming a member. Thank you so much. That's very kind. And yeah, what Jeff is saying at the moment, this is, one of the, like what I've said before, a very, very sad thing about this case. Rachel had 5 children, and because Rachel, and they were all living with Rachel, they were all living together, although they had 3 different fathers. But unfortunately, because of the fact that Rachel's not here anymore, they've all been split up as a family as well. So that's another thing that's so sad about this case. So Mark, welcome to the family, but we'll welcome you properly on Thursday in the members live. We'll sing the song Welcome to the Family then. But thank you so much for becoming a member. That's really kind. Thank you. Right, sorry, let me turn the thing back on.
A sister, a daughter. This has really impacted very close family. And then it's hit our community because we live in a very safe place. So it's hit our community as well. But how are we working with the family on trying to solve this case?
We speak with Rachel's family frequently, and I would agree with you, sir, that Rachel was a mother. She was a daughter. She was a friend to many people. She was a part of this community. She was raised here. She lived here her entire life. And it was devastating to her family. Her children don't have a mother now. She has children under the age of 18 now. She has a child who unfortunately is disabled and now has to cope with not only a disability, but the loss of their mother at a young age. Her Rachel's mother is obviously devastated at the loss of her daughter. Her oldest daughter, who's turned 18, was 18 at the time of this, now has to try to navigate the beginning part of her adult life without a mother. So it affected everybody in Rachel's life, and she had a wide circle of friends. And of course, all of them are affected. And to your point, sir, too, we do live in a safe community, and it definitely upsets everybody, and it takes a little bit of that sense of safety away when something like this happens.
And people.
Oh, does she have a did he say she had a disabled child as well? Oh, do you know what? This twonk, I tell you what, they need to get him. He needs to be taken away from society. What a twonk. What an absolute twatty twonk.
People ask about that all the time, the hiking trail. And we were just asked today, in fact, on an interview, are there cameras on the trail? And particularly somebody saw what they believed is a camera in the pedestrian tunnel going underneath Route 24. To my knowledge, I know that the county's working to put cameras along the trail because of Rachel's case, but there were not cameras there. And I don't believe there's one in the tunnel.
No, sir. There's no tunnels on the trail itself. I mean, no tunnels. There's no cameras on the tunnel itself, on the trail itself, and the cameras in the surrounding area. That we captured the arrival of Rachel into the parking lot. We know where she was beforehand, shopping at a local Target store. We have video of that. We certainly used video in this case to be able to track Rachel's movements in the time leading up to this and to her arrival at the trail. Unfortunately, after Rachel arrives and parks her car at the parking lot at the trailhead, there's no more video evidence after that.
All right, and that might seem, I don't know, outlandish in some parts of our country, but I have to say, my backyard hits a portion of this trail, and we've lived there for more than 20 years, 22, 23. My daughters were raised going out there to be able to walk on the trail, my wife, me, and it's.
Gosh, well, see how personal that is for Sheriff Jeff. He's saying that his backyard goes out onto that trail. His daughters walk that trail, his wife, him. Gosh, so it really is personal to him. It really is personal to him. God, John, I'm just getting so angry about this guy. Please let them find him.
So far outside the norm. I don't think many communities can understand just how, what kind of feeling of safety there was prior to this case. Obviously, this woke everybody up a little bit that were, as law enforcement will preach, it can happen here, and the worst things can happen here. And we saw that again in this case, sadly. We talked about a little bit about working with the family, and how about other agencies? Obviously, this is a big case, went from one side of the country to the other. How about other partners?
Yes, sir. We've used multiple partners in this case, and we still do on a daily basis. The Maryland State Police Crime Lab has been an integral partner on this, and has helped us with the initial genetic links we made. But as we continue moving forward with the case, has helped us with further processing of evidence. We've used federal partners to help us reach out across the country to different places to conduct interviews, to give us assistance again with evidence processing and directions to take the case. We've used other local departments across the country when we needed to be able to conduct interviews and be able to understand where potential suspects reside and crimes they may have committed in the past. We've used laboratories from multiple states through the country to help so they can assist us try to track the suspect as well. So we've received a tremendous amount of support from agencies throughout the country.
Now, how's the community responded to your efforts during the canvases? What's the response that the detectives are seeing?
The response has been great from the community. They've always been supportive of the sheriff's office my entire time working here, and they're continuing to be supportive of the sheriff's office today. I think the community has told us, the people we've spoken to, exactly what they saw, the people we've spoke to. I think if there's one thing that if I could, hopefully people would understand, is that we know the suspect, and I touched on this before, was here in Hartford County prior to this incident. He didn't arrive that day and leave that day. He was here beforehand. And when he was here, just like all of us in our daily lives, we interact with the people around us in businesses, we interact with people in restaurants, we reside somewhere, we have neighbors. There are people who live in this community or who were in this community at the time of the event that certainly would have interacted and seen this suspect. And those are the people that we need to come forward and tell us who this person is and where he is now.
And one thing, I'm just kind of looking through my notes. I to kind of frame my thoughts, but jumping back, and it's a DNA answer, obviously. But we get the question we put out there. Obviously, this person's of Hispanic. Our suspect from the video is of Hispanic descent. What makes us confident enough to say that?
Through the course of the investigation, we obviously, like I said, we processed DNA and genetic material, and that, along with video evidence, allows us to conclusively say that this person has a Hispanic origin.
So one of the things we got a whole lot on our social media was related to the DNA, and it was, if you have the DNA, how do you not have the name? And people weren't able to put that together. So with that, can you kind of explain why we don't have a name just because of a DNA match, and then how confident you are or we are in the DNA match we have?
So we are highly confident that the DNA that we recovered from the crime scene points conclusively to our suspect. However, the way DNA works is it is able at this stage to connect us through the CODIS database we spoke about to another unknown crime. There is no DNA database that would allow me to be able to plug that in there and have it just give me a name. That's not how it works. The only people that are named in a CODIS database, people who've committed a qualifying crime. So if you haven't been arrested and committed one of these crimes and been to prison, then your name is not in a database. There is no massive database with everyone's DNA. That's not how it works. But what it does allow us to do is to link these two crimes. And when we do locate our suspect, which we will, it will be able to conclusively link him to the crime scene.
Right. And then again, kind of related to that, one of the questions I get, because the DNA has told us of Hispanic descent, is do we believe that the suspect in this case is in the country illegally? We know that the border is a big issue in our country right now. My answer to that is we don't know, and we don't want to rule that out, nor do we want to say that's the way it is. It's just another possibility because we said he could be laying his head anywhere from Los Angeles to here, or really any.
So that's interesting again what he's addressing there, because this, the immigrant crisis in America is, it's always, I've noticed with JLR Investigates, that seems to be all he talks about these days, is the border crisis. Elon Musk has been there, the crisis over immigration. So the fact that this guy is Hispanic descent, we don't know if he's first generation. He could have, his family could have been in America for 100 years. Who knows? Or he could have just come over the border last year. We don't know enough about to know that. But this has been an issue, hasn't it? As soon as it was released that it was Hispanic, the Hispanic communities, there's a worry that they may be nervous about giving information. They don't talk to the police. Maybe they don't watch the news, in the English news, the English speaking news. And this is why, Jeff, if you're watching this, please, Sheriff Jeff, I speak fluent Spanish. I can come and help you with this case. Please. Anyway, but you know what I'm saying? So that's another, in Britain, there's the problem with immigrants, but it's mainly like Muslim immigrants, isn't it? In America, the problem that concerns people the most is Hispanic immigrants. Here in Spain, the problem are Moroccan Muslim, again, immigrants. There's always an immigration problem, and it all gets mixed up with the refugee crisis. Some people are genuine refugees, so it's all like this horrible mixture that causes so much hatred and so much. I don't know what the answer is. I literally don't know what the answer is. But I think we've got to not be like Jeff is always so calm. That's the other thing that I like about him. He's also, he's downplaying it. Let's be calm about this. Let's be realistic. It's not necessarily that this guy wasn't. We don't know that he was an immigrant. All we know he was Hispanic. But just because he was Hispanic doesn't mean that he just came over the border, like a year ago. He could. I hate talking about this subject because it gets people so irate in all different ways. And, to me, you just have to take each case at its own face value. You can't generalize. I don't know, in America, it's a big thing. In Britain, it's a big thing. In Spain, it's a big thing. The immigration, what's the word I'm looking for? It's not immigration so much. There's going to be more of it because the world now, I mean, I don't know what happens in China. I suppose they get immigrants over the border from other countries near to them, or Russia does, or, there's going to be this massive, because of climate change as well. And, some places are just going to be unbearable to live in. Spain is going to be difficult in the summer. That's a whole nother subject. Let's not get into that. Let's not get into that here. Let's all be nice to each other.
Anywhere in the world, so we don't know. So, I mean, do you have any thoughts on that response?
It definitely does complicate things. You're correct, sir, that he could be a U.S. citizen from California or a U.S. citizen from any other state. Obviously, there's been an influx of people from certain parts of the world here in the United States, and there's people who move through our southern border a little more freely, and that does complicate things, and it allows people to be able to move, and it makes it difficult to be able to track people through traditional means. It just adds another a layer of complication.
And again, to focus on that as being a fact when we don't know it would be wrong, and to ignore that without knowing that's not the case would be wrong. So we haven't been able to put it either way. So that's an open-ended question, I guess, if you will. The big question I get all the time is, why not a sketch? You have the video. You addressed, we have the video of him leaving because he didn't come in that door. Where are we with some sort of sketch or something?
So we began the investigation and made this link. One of the first things we would do in any case is try to locate witnesses. One of those witnesses that we did locate in this case was a victim of that California assault. Sketches are absolutely a phenomenal investigative tool. However, they are one person's impression of what someone looks like. All of us view people differently, and it can change the way that sketch looks. We do have a sketch that we're planning on releasing soon. That this sketch was not one person's interpretation of what our suspect looks like, but multiple people's impression, both victims from California, witnesses here in Hartford County, and then also the artists using the video as part of the rendering as well. So being able to put all those three things together, we believe that we have a sketch now that is the closest rendition we're going to be able to have, and we want the public to be able to see that as well.
And it may actually be released ahead of this podcast, depending on timing, depending on how it all works out.
Yes, sir.
So as far as the sketch goes, explain how important it is to try to get it as close as possible to the actual suspect, and what efforts you took to make sure it's just not another Hispanic male being sought.
So it's important to get this sketch as close as we can, because the one thing as an investigator I don't want someone to look at this sketch and think, well, I'm not going to call the sheriff's office and tell them that I think I know who the suspect is because he doesn't look enough like this sketch. So we want to make sure that we make this.
Okay, so he's talking about the sketch now. So of course it's a podcast, so they can't show it, but we saw the sketch earlier, and I'll show you the sketch at the end. But it's interesting what he's saying here, because he's saying he doesn't want to show the sketch and people to look at it and say, oh no, that doesn't look like him. So it's interesting.
Sketch as close as we can get it to what the suspect looks like, so that we can make sure people are confident when they're calling us and people understand what this suspect looks like. So in order to get the best quality we could, we utilized witnesses in California who were assaulted by the suspect. We used um, witnesses here in Hartford County. And then we also used one artist to combine all to interview each one of these people, and then that same artist to look at our video and be able to try to put all of that together to give us the closest that we could possibly get to what the suspect looks like. And then after that, we took that sketch and we talked to other witnesses who didn't maybe see the person as well and weren't confident in making a sketch, but did see the person and asked them, does this sketch look like the suspect that you saw? So that we were sure that we had as large a group as possible who saw this person look at this sketch and say, yes, this is similar to what the person I saw looks like.
You definitely don't want to be out getting calls or interviewing a lot of folks that just because they're Hispanic. So a lot of effort was taken. And one of the things that I did hear, and I think it's important, is that we do have witnesses here in Hartford County.
We do, sir. We've interviewed many witnesses here in Hartford County. As I mentioned, Rachel ran the trail frequently, daily. And a lot of those people came forward and told us just when they saw Rachel. We had other people come forward and tell us that, we saw the video and that they felt like they saw someone who looked very similar to the video on the trail in the weeks leading up to Rachel's death. And the volume of people that we've spoken to who told us that they saw someone on the trail who looked similar to our suspect in the week leading up to the crime makes me believe, as I said earlier, that this individual was here in our county for weeks prior to this event.
So those witnesses have linked this particular individual that they personally saw to that trail and around the same time that Rachel was killed.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
And I do think it's important to note we are 1 year out nearly from what happened in Los Angeles and 6 months out from Rachel's homicide here. So, we are this is what that person looked like 6 months ago, a year ago.
Yes, sir.
Which was consistent between the two because we've had people from here and there both kind of say this is a more accurate rendition. So, or rendering, I guess, is more appropriate. So, again, there's been some time. So, hair grows out, or in my case, falls out. People can change their look. So we're asking people to, when they see both the video and the images, to be mindful of this is now 6 months.
6 month anniversary. And when we release these sketches, one of the things that the public will see is there's two sketches. One of these sketches is this person, his facial features only, and the other one shows the individual wearing a hat, a red baseball style cap. That hat is something that we know from interviewing different witnesses is something that the suspect has worn in the past. So again, to your point, sir, people can change the way they appear through gaining weight, losing hair, wearing hats and sunglasses and things like that.
And so with all of this we've discussed so far, again, 6 months in, where do we stand today?
Today we stand that still every day we're working this investigation. We're speaking to witnesses. We're still working with allied agencies and partners federally on the federal side and on the state side. We're interviewing witnesses as late as this morning. We were speaking to somebody. We're using every available tool that we have to try to find this individual.
And I know, again, many years of doing this, there are cases that stick with all.
There's a couple of theories about this guy because somebody is obviously hiding him. Somebody knows where he is. Now, that's going to be either family, his mum, or maybe brother, sister, who knows, somebody. Don't forget, that families do hide. Even big twonks like this, they do cover up, even for murderers. I mean, I could see that you would cover for your family member if it was, a lesser crime. But how you could cover up for your family when it's murder, murdering a mother of 5 children, I find that hard, to believe that you could cover that up. But Anyway, but of course, the other possibility is they might be bloody terrified of this guy. You know, he could have a partner, he could have a wife, a sister, a mother, or whatever, and they're hiding him because he's a violent man. He's a violent man. They're scared that if they go to the police, you know, that something will happen to them. You know, it's entirely possible that as well, because he's not just suddenly stepped out of nowhere and attacked that family in Los Angeles and then murdered Rachel in Maryland. He hasn't just stepped out of the blue and done that. He must be a violent man generally. He must have done other things. You know, people will be scared of him. You know, this is what happens. People are terrified. They don't really, you know, because they're probably scared. You know, if they go to the police, what are the repercussions for them? There could be gangs involved. There could be drugs involved. You know, there's so many, you know, even if he gets put away, if they go to the police and he actually gets arrested, they don't know. Maybe there's a gang out there that might come after them, you know. Somebody said about unless he slips up somewhere. This is what people like Isaac Keys did. Ted Bundy. Well, you know, they get stopped sometimes. Peter Sutcliffe, the Yorkshire Ripper, gets stopped for traffic offences. And then as soon as they get, you know, their ID checked, or as soon as they, because of course now with traffic offences, they can take your DNA, can't they? They can take a swab. This has happened to many people now in these new laws, not only in America, but I suppose in America it's different from state to state. But in Britain now, you know, if somebody gets stopped for, you know, drinking and driving or doing something wrong, they can get their DNA swabbed, and that can tie them. Many people have been caught that way. DNA has been a game changer, but he needs to slip up first. He needs to slip up first and be tested. Or he may have left the country anyway. Oh, why is that not playing? Come on. Oh, it's not making any noise for some reason. Hang on. Why does it do that every now and again when I go off it? If I go off it for too long. Right, I'm just going to go back to the original tab. Actually, it's quite good because this is just to show those of you who maybe weren't here earlier. This is the photo fit that's been released. This was the cap he was wearing that they got the DNA off. And, you know, he just looks so young on there, doesn't he? He really does look young. But they think he's between 28 and 35. So let's go back to the Spotify episode. For some reason, it just stopped working. Let's see.
Volume of people that we've spoken to who told us that they saw someone on the trail who looks similar to our suspect in the week leading up to the crime, makes me believe, as I said earlier, that this individual was here in our county for weeks prior to this event.
So those witnesses have linked this particular individual that they personally saw to that trail and around the same time that Rachel was killed.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
And I do think it's important to note we are 1 year out nearly from what happened in Los Angeles and 6 months out from Rachel's homicide here. So, we are this is what that person looked like 6 months ago, a year ago,
Yes, sir.
which was consistent between the two because we've had people from here and there both kind of say this is a more accurate rendition. So, or rendering, I guess, more appropriate. So, again, there's been some time. So, hair grows out, or in my case, falls out. People can change their look. So we're asking people to, when they see both the video and the images, to be mindful of this is now 6 month.
6 month anniversary. And when we release these sketches, one of the things that the public will see is there's two sketches. One of these sketches is this person, his facial features only, and the other one shows the individual wearing a hat, a red baseball style cap. That cap, that hat is something that we know from interviewing different witnesses is something that the suspect has worn in the past. So again, to your point, sir, people can change the way they appear through gaining weight, losing hair, wearing hats and sunglasses and things like that.
And so with all of this we've discussed so far, again, 6 months in, where do we stand today?
Today we stand that still every day we're working this investigation. We're speaking to witnesses. We're still working with allied agencies and partners federally on the federal side and on the state side. We're interviewing witnesses as late as this morning. We were speaking to somebody. We're using every available tool that we have to try to find this individual.
And I know, again, many years of doing this, there are cases that stick with all of us. How are your investigators doing with the personal aspect? We can't even imagine being in Rachel's family's shoes. And back to the children losing their mom, just the devastation to this family. Not trying to compare it in scope in any way imaginable to that, but obviously with a police officer, this kind of case sticks with you. How are your people doing with that?
I think they're motivated. I think they look at a crime like this and the tragedy that it caused and the violence that was involved both here in California and in Maryland, and they're motivated. They want to find this person and they want to take them off the streets so that no one else is injured. And they want to bring justice to Rachel and to her family. So they're working hard and they're motivated every day. And I have confidence that they're going to find this individual.
And I tell you, we all pray for that outcome for sure. And again, I'll let you offer any thoughts or the major on our Hartford County community. Again, we've been through some over the last 10 years or so, been through some devastating events. This case is up there, and the things that have impacted our community. What kind of words do you think about sharing in reference to our Hartford County community?
Well, I mean, I would start by saying to the community as a whole that I appreciate everything they've done so far. We've received hundreds and hundreds of tips directly from the community here. They're always willing to speak to us. We've done multiple canvases through the community, and everyone always is willing to come out and speak to us to tell us what they saw to try to help us. I would just ask that they continue to do that, to try to remember Rachel, remember the area that she was in, to if anybody remembers anything moving forward that they think it's important or not. If it's a small detail, those small details can be the details that break the case open. So I'd ask them to do that. And anybody who hasn't reached out to us, who saw anything that day, who is aware of a person who was in the area then and isn't here now, if they've seen the video and they have a basic idea what this person looks like, or when they look at our sketch, do they know that person here? Is he here now? Did he leave? Did you see this person because you worked with him? Any information that they can provide would be great.
And just one thing to add is the local business community has moved mountains to help investigators and during the investigation, and not only the local business community but the national business community, and some offerings from big companies in the surveillance world have really stepped forward to give us a hand, which has moved us forward. And it can't go unsaid that we have more offerings coming in every single day.
We do every day. And I think everybody looks at this case and they realize how tragic and needless it was, and how devastating it was for Rachel's family. And I think our community here is a close community, and it's a safe community. And I think when people hear or see something like this, the first thing they want to do is they want to help. And we have had a tremendous amount of help from within the community, business community, from the state, and from people out of state as well, who just want to try to do the right thing and find this person before hear someone else.
And with that, I'll just I guess around the room. Any closing thoughts before we wrap this special edition broadcast podcast spotlight, the sheriff spotlight, before we wrap up this episode?
I would just reiterate again, anybody who has seen anything, or anybody who feels like they have information that could help the investigation, please reach out to the sheriff's office and let us know what you have.
Every bit of information that we can develop or that is provided to us is followed up on, and you never know what that tip is going to lead to. So if even the smallest bit of information, please come forward and provide detectives with an opportunity to follow up.
And I'll say both Andy and the major have said it. I've said in many interviews, we're one good tip away from a name that lets us bring this down and get this guy off the street. My fear is that wherever he is, he's going to do something like this again, and some other family, some other community is going to be suffering as we have, and we certainly, again, we don't want Rachel's family to be, to have another family going through what Rachel's family's had to deal with through this loss. And if anyone has any tips, and again, as the major said, no matter how small, it might seem like the most insignificant thing and not worth bothering the police. It's worth bothering the police. RM tips, Rachel Morin, RM tips at hartfordsheriff.org, and the phone line's 410-836-7788 for the tip line.
Okay, there you go. Well, that was a very comprehensive update, wasn't it? Very, very interesting update, comprehensive, lots of new information there that we didn't know before. That's my Valentine, Jeff. He's definitely going to be my Valentine this year, whether he likes it or not. But yeah, it was a very interesting podcast with lots of new information. They've given up as much information as they're able to do. It's brought the interest back into the case. And not only that case, but Samantha's case over in Australia. They're similar, aren't they? All these cases where people go missing, not only women, but lately, there's the Nicole Bully case, the Samantha Murphy case in Australia, and this case in America. They're, all sort of different but similar, if that makes sense. But what we've had tonight, I think, from that podcast is an interesting insight into what is still going on behind the scenes, even though it seems like, nothing's happening. There's a lot of things happening. It's just, until they actually get this guy. But anyway, I agree, Charlie. I think Captain Andy and Sheriff Jeff will leave no stone unturned. They haven't given up on it. So it only takes one mistake, one person to talk. It feels like things aren't getting anywhere. I've watched so many about so many cases where you really felt that things weren't going anywhere. Mitchell Quay is a very good example of that. I think it was 18 months before he was prosecuted for murdering Lindsay. And now with DNA evidence, etc., things do turn up. But anyway, Charlie, I haven't even gone into Captain Tom's and the spa. There's been so many other things going on. Sometimes I think, God, I could just be on a continuous stream of information of like things that are happening here, there, and everywhere. But anyway, so this is what we've been looking at tonight. It's the case of Rachel Morin. Hopefully this man will be caught. Anyway, I'm taking my earrings out now as I'm finishing off, because I'm ready now to go and have something to eat, and then I'll be going to bed. I've got another day of classes tomorrow, but I'm looking forward to Wednesday. That's probably be the next time I see you, unless something mega happens in between. Which of course I will always keep you updated on any case that we're following, or just general information. Do you know, it's funny, Amethyst, what you say. A lot of people say that. I need to relax and calm down and go to sleep, oh, let's listen to a true crime video. But anyway. Oh, Rio, don't work too hard. I like work, though. I like work. You know, I'm very, very lucky that I do work hard, but I enjoy both the YouTube that I do and my Spanish classes. So, you know, there's so many people go out there in the grind day in, day out, hate what they do, just look forward to retiring. I'm not like that. I can't imagine ever retiring, to be honest, because I actually do enjoy work. Oh God, it's Pancake Day tomorrow. Pancake Day tomorrow, yeah. My son normally makes pancakes. We'll see if he makes them tomorrow. Okay, so listen, thank you so much for being here with me. I'm going to put I want to say thank you to Gail, who sent a super sticker. Thank you so much. And thank you to Mark Ingram, who became a member. And we're going to welcome him properly on Thursday with a song. Like, we have our song, but I need to write my own song. That's what I need to do, I think. Definitely need to get my own song going. So yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, everyone. And sleep well. Remember to live and love wisely, carefully. Get your Valentine's sorted. It's it's good. You know, send some Valentine's card, make someone's day. And I'll see you really soon in the next video. And until then, may your God go with you. Oh, bye.